Hey everyone, it's me. Welcome to the channel. So this is another request from our community. We had somebody ask, how do we stay calm when everything's falling apart? And I love this question because I think there are some Stoic tools that we can deploy when things feel like they're re-spinning out of control, whether it's in our lives or in the world around us. So let's break this down. I think there are two different aspects to staying calm when everything is falling apart. The first is, what are the things that we can do to actually stay calm? What's the right way to think about managing our own emotions so that we not at the mercy of whatever's happening externally? And then secondly, how can we be calm in a world that seems completely chaotic, that seems completely out of control? How can we bring a sense of calm and order to others? Because obviously nobody likes seeing people panic and lose their minds when things go wrong. But also we want to make sure that we're keeping ourselves together. So let's start with the first part. What are some of the things that we can do to stay calm when everything is falling apart? First, I always come back to the idea of negative visualization. I know it sounds depressing, but it's actually quite the opposite. The idea here is that one of the reasons that we get thrown off track when things go badly is that we did unprepare ourselves mentally for those situations. We never anticipated that something could go wrong. So we were caught flat-footed, and therefore the bad news hits us much more intensely than it would have if we had prepared ourselves for it in advance. Seneca talks about this. He says no man is ever crushed by the future, but only by the anticipation of the future. So negative visualization is really just saying, okay, what's the worst that can happen? What's the worst that can happen if I don't hit my deadline? What's the worst that can happen if my client gets angry at me? What's the worst that can happen if I strike out in this new direction and take this risk? You want to try to visualize all of the worst-case scenarios in advance so that when the actual worst-case scenario happens, you've already sort of seen it in your mind, you've already experienced it mentally, and therefore it doesn't catch you off guard. And when you don't get caught off guard, you're much less likely to panic. The second thing I'd say is just step back and zoom out. Just try to get some perspective. Ask yourself, is this problem actually as big as I'm making it out to be in my mind? Or will this matter in 10 years? Will this matter in 10 months? Will this matter even in 10 minutes? Oftentimes, when we're in the middle of these problems, we think that they're much bigger than they actually are. Marcus Aurelius says, the obstacle is the path, and the path is the obstacle. So oftentimes these problems are only as big as we make them out to be in our minds. So don't give them too much power over you. Don't give them too much power over your emotions. Sometimes literally getting some distance from the problem, stepping away from it, going for a walk, getting outside, doing something else entirely can help you to gain that perspective so that you can come back and deal with the problem in a much calmer, more rational way. The third thing I'd say is just recognize that you have no control over most of the things that are happening around you. And again, this is where negative visualization comes into play as well, because you want to realize that bad things do happen to good people. Bad things happen outside of our control. So many of the things that we think, oh, if only I had done this differently, if only I had taken this different path, if only I had said yes to that instead of no, then everything would be fine. That's rarely the case. We don't have nearly as much control as we think we do. So you might as well let go of the things that you can control and double down on the things that you can. Epictetus, the former slave, who went on to become one of the great philosophers of all time, he says, man is disturbed not by things, but by his opinions about things. In other words, we have no control over most of what happens. But we do have control over how we interpret what happens, how we think about what happens. So for example, if you get bad news and you think, oh my God, why did this have to happen to me? Why is everything going wrong? Versus if you say, you know what? I've been lucky for so long. It was bound to happen eventually. Okay, now what am I going to do about it? Totally different ways of approaching the exact same situation. So again, trying to cultivate that negative visualization in advance. Trying to get comfortable with discomfort, trying to reframe setbacks and obstacles as actually opportunities in disguise, that's going to help you to stay calm when everything is falling apart. And then finally, on the individual level, when you're trying to stay calm when everything's falling apart, I would just say, take some deep breaths, right? I know this sounds basic, but just taking a few moments to center yourself, to think about your breathing, to think about the present moment, can help you to calm down. There's actually a lot of science behind this. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. Our bodies have these two modes, right? we have the fight or flight mode. That's the sympathetic nervous system. You get revved up. Your heart starts racing. Your palms get sweaty. Your breathing gets faster. Your body's preparing to take action. But then we also have this other mode, which is kind of like the rest and digest mode. It's the parasympathetic nervous system. When we take deep breaths, when we close our eyes, when we think about the present moment, we're activating that part of our nervous system. And when we activate that part of our nervous system, we calm down. And the idea is not that you spend all of your time in this calm, relaxed state, but you have this toolkit of things that you can do to move between these two modes. So when you're feeling anxious or stressed or overwhelmed, you can move into action mode. But when you need to calm yourself down, you can use these other tools. So that's the first part. Those are some of the things that we can do individually to stay calm when everything's falling apart. Now, what about when the world around us feels like it's falling apart? How do we stay calm in that situation? Well, I think the key is to remember that while you can't control most external things, you can control your external behavior. You can control how you show up for other people. So that's why it's so important to cultivate an inner strength and an inner calm, so that you can be a source of strength and calm for other people. So many times when things go wrong, when there's a crisis, that's when you see people's true colors. They panic. They run around like chickens with their heads cut off, point fingers at other people. They start blaming others. They lose their minds. So if you're able to stay calm and centered and strong, then you become a source of stability for the people around you. Now, obviously, this doesn't mean that you have to have all of the answers. It doesn't mean that you have to be the person who fixes everything. It just means that you show up for the people around you, that you offer a listening ear, that you lend a helping hand, that you remain calm and steady so that the people around you can lean on you. Ultimately, though, I think the key to this is perspective. You want to zoom way out and get some perspective on what's happening? Is this really as bad as it seems? Are these really the end of the world? Are things really falling apart forever? Or are these simply temporary setbacks? Are these merely obstacles that you can overcome on your path forward? So many times when we zoom in, when we focus on the details, when we focus on the day-to-day, we think that these problems are much bigger than they actually are. But when you zoom out, when you look at the big picture, when you look at your life over the course of decades, you realize that this too shall pass. So, just stay calm, stay grounded, take some deep breaths, do the work that's in front of you with excellence, and then put it out of your mind. Focus on what you can control and let go of the things you can't. That's how you stay calm when everything's falling apart. All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps you to stay calm. And as always, I'm reminded of something that Seneca said. He said, we're all like sailors. We all have our storms. The real test is not when things are going perfectly smoothly, but rather when the winds are against us, when the waves are crashing over us. That's when you find out what you're really made of. So everybody goes through storms in life. Everybody faces obstacles. The question is, what do you do when those storms come your way? Do you panic? Do you run around like a chicken with its head cut off? Or do you stay calm? Do you navigate through those challenges with grace and with wisdom? As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope this helps you to stay calm, and I will see you in the next video.